Very complex issue in terms of gun control in the black community because historically, um, and I'm talking about going back to slavery, um, there was it was really kind of policy to prevent black people to have weapons, either formal or informally. But I believe in the 1960s that sort of shifted, and where this, and in terms of a proliferation of guns, particularly in urban black communities, where that shift happens because of increase of the underground economy in those communities. When you have the proliferation of drug trafficking, guns almost corresponds with that. So you have guns, unlike the period of time I'm studying about, or we talk about in the book, where you have young black people learning how to use weapons in the South because their families feel they need it for protection, but for hunting. I've interviewed black women who said their parents taught them how to use weapons to protect themselves from white rapists. So rather than it being a rites of passage in a community, then it becomes a rites of passage in street organizations and sometimes criminality in the black community. So it creates a whole different dynamic. So on one hand, where there's concern about from some blacks about the possibility of being disarmed, just like blacks were disarmed during Reconstruction and made more vulnerable to white supremacists, and that fear is there, particularly after the election of President Obama, where you have proliferation of white gun ownership in certain communities. You have development of paramilitary and militia organizations or mobilization of them after the election of President Obama. So there's fear on one level, but then there's a need for control of weapons in the community because of the development of underground economy and them being in the hands of these unstable elements. One of the things